Hello, everyone, and welcome to the jungle. This is our Cincinnati Bengals podcast, part of the Riverfront Podcast Network, brought to you by the wonderful people over at Blue Wire. I am Tim Daniel. As you know, I'm regularly on this show on a week-to-week basis with Seth Shaner, but today we are introducing the newest member of the Riverfront team. He made a very brief appearance a couple weeks ago after we talked about the Bengals Steelers game. And so bringing him on board, this is his first full show. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat. Of course, I'm talking. Everyone, welcome Owen Timmerding to the Riverfront, man. Thanks for joining us. I'm excited to have you.
Tim, I'm really excited. Once I saw this opportunity to jump and talk about my favorite football team, I couldn't help it. I love sports. Love talking about sports, as we talked about, a lifelong Cincinnati sports fan. So this felt like kind of a match made in heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who obviously don't know you, to kind of get the Riverfront fam to know you, just tell us a little about yourself. Tell us a little about everything about where you're going to school and things like
Yeah.
that. And, just the whole 5-second elevator pitch thing.
All right. So we just talked off camera. I'm a Northern Kentucky guy. So that makes me obviously close to Cincinnati, huge Reds, Bengals, and kind of different. I'm a big UK fan as being in Kentucky. Love the Wildcats. They're kind of like my favorite team that I get the most jacked up about, but I love the Bengals, kind of love everyone equally. Guy, right now I'm a senior at Miami, Ohio, and love what the Red Hawks are doing and all their sports. Follow them pretty tight. There might be a tournament team, Tim. We can get to that maybe at some point off cam, but they're pretty legit. But I love my time, love Cincinnati, and I just, like I said, I'm kind of just excited to be a part of the sports media landscape. I have some experience from high school and kind of ready to get back in.
It's awesome, man. We're excited to have you. I'm
Of
really looking
course.
forward to seeing how things go. So, the reason we are here today is the Bengals, I guess, haven't officially, but it sounds all but official, have announced. Well, they haven't announced. It's been reported, I should say, by Tom Pellisario and many others that Notre Dame Defensive Coordinator Al Golden will be taking over the Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator position, which was obviously Lou Anarumo was relieved of a few weeks back. Really kind of a weird situation in the sense
Mhm.
that, you know, just like when the Bengals hired Zac Taylor, they had to wait for a championship game to make everything
Mhm.
official. Zac obviously was the quarterback coach of the Rams before he came to Cincinnati. Louis Anarumo, the defense coordinator at Notre Dame, just played in the national championship against Ohio State. But as a guy who has familiarity in Cincinnati, obviously was part of the Super Bowl team as the linebackers coach. So guys like Logan Wilson, guys like Jermaine Pratt are really, really familiar with him and his style. And then went to Notre Dame for a couple of years and obviously had lots of success there as well. So, Owen, to start the conversation here, I guess your first overall impression of Al Golden taking over the defense coordinator position, but also coming back to Cincinnati.
I liked it. I think it was pretty obvious that this was going to be the choice the whole time. Whether or not he was going to be available was kind of unknown, but I think it kind of we know how the Bengals work. This is how it's been for years. They find their guys and they like their guys that are loyal to them, and I kind of appreciate that, especially in this position here. I mean, I kind of was looking through some stuff. I love his relationship with Zach. I as critical as people are of Zac Taylor, and I'm the same way with his schemes. I think he's a great locker room guy, and
Sure.
these people love his energy, and I love how he connects the coaching staff. So I like it. We'll kind of see how it goes. I also really liked Lou in the fact that I think his schemes were great, but it's just kind of like that narrative. I think they needed a new voice. So I think it'll work out. I'm just skeptical. I just want to see what happens and see because there's, I'm sure we'll get into this more later, is this isn't going to fix everything with the
Right.
Bengals defense. We need to see some other stuff happen too. But this is a good jumping off point, I think. I mean, Notre Dame's great. If you're the defense coordinator of Notre Dame Fighting Irish in a national championship, you're doing something right, and he deserves to be in the NFL. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Couple things that really kind of jump out, obviously, is like you said. So obviously he's been around. He knows what it takes to win here. He's won here before. Was part of that excellent AFC Championship team, and then took the job at Notre Dame, of course, that next year as a defensive coordinator. But like I mentioned, so Logan Wilson is a guy who he kind
Mm-hmm.
of helped develop. Jermaine Pratt, who really had his best year under Al Golden. And then you have other guys, Trey Hendrickson was here with him for a year. Von Bell, I don't know if he's going to be back next year or not, but as a
Yeah.
guy who has that familiarity as well. Yeah, I know. I have the same reaction.
Yeah.
But I think that it is a nice start. And you're right. This is not the be all end all. This does not change everything. Sam Hubbard is not all of a sudden going to find his way again with
Mm.
this. But for players like Joseph Asai, McKinley Jackson, and Chris Jenkins, I really like this move. I think it's a guy who's done a great job developing. He's been a head coach before, so it's a guy who knows how to he's been the CEO, and he's also been the manager. He's also been the associate, right? So he's a guy who's kind of had all three levels of that. Now, obviously, the thing that everyone's kind of asking is his schematics, and Notre Dame was very heavy man-to-man defensive team this year. Did play a lot more zone in the national championship than they did throughout the season, but we're definitely willing to, rush a lot, try to get home to the quarterback and leave their corners on an island with trusting them to make a play. We saw how that ended the game against Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith making that unbelievable catch from that Will Howard throw, but I'm willing to live with that. I think the Bengals probably are too, in that sense that, this is a team who, other than Trey Hendrickson, has immensely struggled to get a pass rush for, a couple years now. Sam Hubbard, not really going to be your guy who's going to go out and get 5 or 6 sacks, right? Trey Hendrickson up for Defensive Player of the Year, so that's big news. We'll talk about that in a second as well. But I think that this is a nice start, and I like the familiarity. Cincinnati to South Bend's not too long a drive, so he's not going to have to do too much. So, it's weird for me as a guy who roots for both those teams, where it's like, darn, I'm losing my defensive coordinator, but also my NFL team's getting a defensive coordinator. So it's interesting.
I'm really curious to see, especially how Osai and McKinley Jackson and even Miles Murphy kind of develop here, because to lose, no fault to Lou, is his scheme just wasn't really pass rush heavy. And so it would force guys. Hendrickson did so well because he's just uber talented.
Right.
Guys like Miles Murphy and Osai, who I think Osai took a great step, especially at the end of the year when we saw it, are going to benefit from these heavy pass rushes, because if they're sending 6 or 7 guys, like you said, like, these guys are going to get opportunities to make their plays. It's kind of, I think these younger guys, especially on the D line, are going to have a big role to fill, clearly, and we drafted them for a reason. But it's like, I don't know. I think they're going to find a better spot with the way this defense is set up. So I don't know what you think about that, but I just think I think they have an opportunity to kind of take another step with how this is going to work compared to the last couple of years.
I completely agree with you. I think that this is kind of a chance for those guys, because that's what they are, right? That's what Miles Murphy was at Clemson, was just kind of get after it and make a play. And Chris Jenkins, obviously, I think was very, very good last year. McKinley Jackson was obviously very, very good last year. So to see how those guys take that step forward, and you mentioned Joseph Asai, who really came on, during the 5-game win streak, was really, really impressive. Makes the play in the Denver game that leads to Jermaine Pratt interception, and things like that. So, yeah, you're right. Just to kind of see what he can get out of these guys as far as like what this next step they can take to be effective and be really good players is going to be huge for this. And obviously, we're talking about a situation where player development is really going to matter, because this is a team that, they all basically have said like they're going to try to keep the triplets together, being T. Jamar and Joe. So that means defensively, you're going to have to hit on a lot of draft picks. You're going to have to make sure these guys, you get the most out of these guys and get the best out of them, especially because, look, you're going to be losing a lot of guys, right? I mean, I think Sam Hubbard and Jermaine Pratt, very strong chance they're not here next year, right? I think Geno Stone, very strong chance he's not here next year. And probably realistically shouldn't be. And I think too, one thing about him and, a guy we're going to talk about here in a second as well, they collabed, and this is me, the Notre Dame fans, saying this, is their secondary was awesome. They were the number 1 team in the country at turnovers, and they were the number 1 team in the country at turnover yardage. They're number 1 team in the country at scoring, at helping their offense score off turnovers. So, and obviously Ben Morrison, Xavier Watts, those guys are awesome. You're DJ Turner, you're Jordan Battle, you're Dax Hill. You're probably watched Notre Dame's secondary this year and saw like what he did with them. You're probably really excited that you have a chance to do that as well.
And part of Lou's defensive scheme was this communication in the secondary, and it helps. Jesse Bates was so reliable because he knew how to tag these guys off. I mean, and it worked. And so we had a great we had a middle of the road secondary on the years Jesse Bates was there, but we had a top 5 defense. So, and we've seen this secondary just crumble. And yeah, these guys are young, but we see these flashes of
Yeah.
talent. DJ Turner was great. Dax Hill was great until they both got hurt. And that's the thing that sucks is who knows what Dax Hill is going to look like because it's hard coming off an ACL, especially in the secondary. I just think these guys are going to have an opportunity to show kind of their raw talent because of this man-to-man, like you said, like his Al Golden's scheme allows these guys to kind of be their best selves, and not really have to worry about passing guys off to another guy in these miscommunications. It's kind of just, all right, we're gonna rely on you to make a play. We trust you. So it's like, and I think that's big, especially for these young guys, getting that confidence and them going, knowing that they can make a stop when they need to.
Yeah, and I also think that the people you're kind of seeing, of course, the message boards and the places that are complaining about the national championship game and his scheme there. But I'm not going to hold one game against him. Yeah, he played scared against
Yeah.
3 potential day 1 NFL draft pick wide receivers. I'm going to be okay with that.
I was thinking about that. I was like, I think that's not a very fair comparison. I mean, yeah, you're going to play great talent in the NFL, but you're also getting better talent on the Bengals, presumably. You're also just going to be more prepared. I just think it's hard. I think it's a bad microcosm of the whole season where Notre Dame's defense was great. And you run into the buzzsaw that was Ohio State, who we all knew was uber talented, who was head and shoulders above everyone else all year, whether they knew it or not, and they figured it out. But I don't know. I just think like, and here's the other thing is Al Golden's defense doesn't need to be great. It needs to just be 50% of what it was this year. Because we're going to score. Yeah. You don't need, and I hope that's what Taylor, I mean, if they're great, I'll take it. I'll take a top 10 defense. But the consistent thing I think of is you just need to get these guys, got to get the most of these young guys. And it doesn't need to be incredible. You just got to be able to hold these leads because the offense, we know what they're about. And I think that's what's made this job desirable for someone, especially like Al Golden, who knows, like, listen, I know what I'm doing here. I know what the Bengals need to do and what their focus is on. All I need to do is just kind of just be a patch for a leaky bucket and just be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree, man. And, also, he dealt with a lot of injuries and to get next man up and make things happen for them. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm really curious to see how they approach the draft.
So am I.
With Al coming in town because they're picking the middle of the first, basically, since they just missed the playoffs. Hey, if he wants to bring Xavier Watts to town with him,
I don't mind.
Say like, yeah, by all means. Total single high safety who really enjoys kind of playing center field and just kind of picking up and coming down and playing a little bit like linebacker. Bring him.
Love it.
If Ben Morrison comes out and doesn't say it's for his senior year, which I don't think he is, and he wants to bring him to town too, love it.
Yeah.
Who's really going to like this, and who's going to be really excited, and it may not be a bad thing. They're going to be really excited. Is Cam Taylor-Britt's going to be like, "You're going to leave me on an island all the time? Awesome."
Yeah,
is that a good
I
thing
think
for
he
the
likes
Bengals?
that.
Maybe not, but
we'll see. Well, that's the thing is, I kind of thought we knew what we were getting out of him 2 years ago. I was like, God, this guy's a raw talent. He's clearly athletic. I don't really know what happened. I don't really have I don't think anyone does.
And then
that was kind of it, I think. I think the guys gave him his best bet. I just don't he's got to be great next year.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like I said earlier, they're giving these guys the opportunity next year to basically be like, all right, show us what you're about. We're letting you be we're letting you be a lockdown corner. Show us. And if not, then we'll move on. I think it'll work. I really do. And I think when you think about these good Bengals defenses of the last 20 years, they have really good pass rush and smart linebackers. And I just think it's going to work. I really do. Cause we have enough talent, especially in the linebacker room with Logan. He knows what he's doing. I just think it's good. I think usually people kind of hawk on the Bengals for making the safe choice. I think this is a good one that they did.
Yeah, I do too. I think this was kind of the right move there, even if it does mean that I have to lose him on one end and gain him on the other. So I guess to make a local tie-in as well to the colleges, in the sense that one Cincinnati guy gets a new job, and it sounds like there's a strong possibility that former Cincinnati Bearcat defensive coordinator, now Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman, is considering former Cincinnati Bearcat
Mm,
cornerback Mike Mickens to be the defensive coordinator now at Notre Dame. He was their defensive backs coach, like I mentioned. Mickens obviously had an incredible career at UC. Was one of the guys who really kind of in the Brian Kelly era made them
yeah.
a very, very valuable team. So it sounds like there's a strong possibility Mike Mickens might get a nice little promotion here. And I think that's really, really cool. And I'm going to
Nice.
make sure we got a little bit of Cincinnati tie into that conversation. So
That's awesome. I love. I mean, I know you're a big ND fan. Marcus Freeman's incredible.
yeah,
He's one of those guys that you just are drawn to, and I think he really encapsulates. Like I'm a big UK fan. I think Mark Pope encapsulates what it
yeah,
means to be a UK athlete and fan. I think Marcus Freeman, even though he didn't go to Notre Dame, he gets it. He knows what it's like to be up there, and you can tell. I mean, he just loves it, and everyone rallies around him. He's going to get it done at some point. I think. I just think he's the real deal.
yeah, I do too, man. I'm really excited about the future there as well. But let's get to a little bit of their Bengals news. So obviously, we are now in award season, Owen, and our guys are up for a couple of them. So let me go ahead and get this pulled up real quick, just so I have all the information up to date and make sure I'm saying this correctly. Bear with me just a second. Amazing content we're doing here. So the AP finalists for awards have officially been out, and we're looking at a couple things here. So obviously, let's start with Trey Hendrickson up for Defensive Player of the Year, Jamar Chase up for Offensive Player of the Year, and Joe Burrow up for MVP, Comeback Player of the Year, and Offensive Player of the Year as well. So going into these, obviously all three of those dudes were unbelievable. I think Joe is going to kind of hit the nail on the head when he's talking about why he's probably not going to win MVP. Fine with that. Defensive Player of the Year, I have a hard time not giving it to Trey Hendrickson, not trying to be biased. I'm sure Myles Garrett has a say in that, but his team was worse than the Bengals, obviously.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who else was. I have to look at the ballot itself. But
TJ Watt and Zach Bond, or the guy on the Eagles, or
oh
the
yeah,
finalists for Depoy.
so that's probably gonna be Zach Bond, I assume.
Yeah.
But I would for sure pick Trey Hendrickson if it was me.
Same.
Offensive Player of the Year is interesting.
I do too.
So I think we can count Joe out. I have no issue if Joe gets Comeback Player of the Year. I think that
Yeah.
it'd be the second time he won it, which would be kind of funny.
He's so weird. If
Yeah,
he's won it twice. Yeah.
because he realistically, he probably was the best quarterback in the league. I know Josh Allen has something to say about that, and so does Lamar.
Yeah.
But he was, so you've got this situation here where Jamar Chase, obviously Triple Crown wide receiver winner, very rare company that he did that with. Arguably the best wide receiver season of all time. Just obviously people are going to say, well, they didn't go to the playoffs. He's going against guys like Saquon Barkley, who the
Yeah.
Eagles rested, and for his chance to get the single season rushing record, which I don't have an issue with as much as I would have loved to have seen him get the record. Mainly just because Eric Dickerson would have been pissed off, and that would have been awesome because he was kind of a jerk about it all.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy that these guys are getting the recognition they deserve. Obviously, all three got selected to the Pro Bowl as well. So, what are kind of your thoughts about their chances for these awards?
Yeah. So, like you said, I'm really happy about these guys. My first thought, and I wrote this down. I put UG with like 10 H's because I was like, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that Joe was MVP finalist, Opoy finalist, Jamar Chase was an Opoy finalist, and Hendrickson was a Depoy, I was like, are we in the Super Bowl? I was like, that's would have been my first thought.
Sure.
So that's frustrating. That's frustrating. But here's the thing: these guys are hard not to like. So then that the other side of the coin is, I'm so happy, especially for Hendrickson. I mean, he got kind of snubbed last year for being recognized.
Yeah.
He was incredible. He was even better this year. I think I think he's not going to win because they love. I think the guy on Philly will because he's been incredible.
Yeah.
I swear, if TJ Watt wins another one, I don't really know what we're looking at here because he was horrible the last 3 or 4 games of the year. And that whole Steelers defense really was not what they were talking about. That's either here or there. But if he wins, I kind of think the award is, I don't know. It's frustrating. Yeah. The thing about, like you said, the Offensive Player of the Year award, I think, is a lot tighter than people think. And obviously, this has all been, the voting's done.
Yeah.
on all these. Jamar and Saquon, of course, had generational seasons at the same time. Any other year, it's pretty easy. Like if Jamar is what he did last year, it's pretty easy for giving it to Saquon. If Saquon does what he did last year, it's pretty easy for giving it to Jamar. I don't know which way I want to lean because I really like Saquon Barkley,
Me
but I
too.
also really like Jamar Chase. So I think I just can't. I was just going to say who's more valuable to their team, but we just saw Saquon carry the Eagles to a playoff win. We also saw Jamar Chase carry the Bengals with the help of Burrow, carry the Bengals to multiple wins this year. I don't know. I mean, my selfish heart of hearts says Jamar Chase because I
Yep.
think he's awesome
Same.
and I think he probably deserves it. But I bet it's Saquon at the end of the day. I'm sure he's the betting favorite right now. I kind of kept an eye on it throughout the year. It was always him and Jamar kind of flipping, flopping for the favorite. But damn, like you can't replicate what Jamar Chase did this year. He triple crown. Like that doesn't happen. It's like
No.
I don't know. I don't. What are your thoughts?
I'm with you 1,000%. I do think it's going to be Saquon Barkley,
Yeah.
and maybe this is the homer in me talking, but yeah, Saquon was for sure the best running back in the league this year, and it was probably not necessarily close. But Jamar literally had a season that's happened 8 times in NFL history. Granted, Saquon Barkley's second all time in rushing and single season history after this year. So it's literally a coin flip. I don't have an issue either way. I think both guys for sure made a case for it. Should we go like the college sports route and just give like the best running back, the best wide receiver award, things like that? Yeah, because Jamar for sure deserves some sort of hardware for this year.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Should we go the 1994 NBA Rookie of the Year where Jason Kidd and Grant Hill split it? Do we do that? Is that a thing?
Who are you between Jaden and Brock Bowers on that?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
No, or like
yeah.
AFC, NFC, like the MLB.
Yeah, which
ALNL. I tell you what,
Brock
Bowers
shouldn't be a thing anymore.
No, it's ridiculous. But there's a lot of really good young talent in this NFL, and it's funny because you think about the Bengals having this young talent. These guys aren't young anymore. We're going on year 5 of Joe, 6. Like I don't. Jesus, like first off, that's been a long time. Feels like it was just yesterday when they drafted him. I mean, these guys are young now, so like the Bengals are kind of shifting away from this young, scrappy team narrative. I feel like from the offensive side, from what we've always been known as, especially in this run, that kind of more established. And it's just fun seeing these guys. I mean, thank God Jaden Daniels isn't in the division, because if we would have had to go against him and Lamar twice a year, it would have been crazy. I just don't. He's incredible. I think him and again, like Lamar's so frustrating because you got to respect his talent, but at the same time, he's a Raven, and I just don't. It's hard at the same time to like him, and it's even worse for me because he went to Louisville. So I'm like, I can't. You're not giving me much to work with here, man.
That's like when Juju Smith-Schuster got drafted by the Steelers. I was like, perfect. I can hate him even more now.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally get it. And now he's on the Chiefs, so I can hate him again. Was he
literally?
I think
they brought him back.
I'm not paying attention. Okay. Well, I'm glad you knew that because I didn't. All right, man. Well, let's wrap it here. Obviously, it's Championship Sunday, so without getting too deep into the weeds of why you think these teams are going to win, give me your thoughts. Who wins Championship Sunday? Who wins? Who are representing their conferences in the Super Bowl this weekend?
I think we get a Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl rematch. As much as I want the Bills to win, I don't know. I just think Kansas City is just too hard to beat, especially at home. But Buffalo does feel kind of team of destiny. I don't know. I didn't think
they really do.
I didn't think I bet on the Ravens on Sunday. I didn't think they were going to win because I just kind of thought the Lamar was going to be too much. So I don't know. Hey, I hope Buffalo proves me wrong, but I don't want to. It's hard to bet against a team that's been there forever. This is just clockwork for Kansas City now. And I just think the Eagles love the Commanders. I got a bunch of friends that are Commanders fans. They're so hyped right now. I just think that Eagles defense is so good.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think I am picking the Bills. I just feel like
this
is the year of Josh Allen.
This is the year for them to do it.
Yeah, and if it's not now, when?
Yeah.
So, yeah, all your points are valid. But I really want to pick the Commanders. Not that I dislike the
Same.
Eagles. I just really enjoy watching Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin.
Oh yeah,
I just think that Philadelphia is going to be too much for them. I just feel
I
like
agree.
Philadelphia is going to take over. But hey, man, this was awesome for your
This is
first
great.
episode. Really
Yeah.
excited to have you. Welcome aboard. And so we're going to try to figure Owen into this rotation with Seth and I in the near future, kind of get things going specifically to the off season while we get Bengals news. Free agency is not too far away,
I'm
and
wrapping
so
up. I'm getting there soon.
things are going to get wild. So, Owen, thanks,
Yep.
man. I'm really excited we got to do this. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Everyone, thank you so much for hanging out, and we will be back on our regular Monday schedule. So, see you soon.